There we go. Welcome to a football show, Thursday edition. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessee, and I am Braden Gall, and we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, two award-winning local businesses here in Nashville. Nick, good morning. We got Cam Ward talking to the Titans, not directly. We've got the Combine coming up next week. We got major changes coming in the SEC, all that good stuff. So lots of good stuff to talk about. I also watched the SNL 50th anniversary with my wife yesterday. I have a couple of comments. I'll get to that a little bit later on. So good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I have come down from the excitement high of Sunday and Friday and all of those things that you were talking about of the, I think, cumulative 15 hours of SNL specials that have come out over the last couple of months. And now I'm just back to being a regular person who has a job. So hooray, job. Let's talk about job stuff.
Titans fans, he loves football, but man, he loves SNL more. That's what I just heard.
Not hiding it.
No, it's fair. That's fair. Bill Murray, the GOAT, y'all. Just that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. I know he's my generation, maybe not yours, but when it comes to SNL, you're all of the generations. So,
correct.
There you go. All right, you want to start with Cam Ward? If you want to jump into the comment section, please do so. If you need a good beverage this weekend, Sinkers Beverages. If you need some good meats and a great meal, a great lunch this weekend or this week or today or tomorrow, make sure you swing by Shotgun Willie's Barbecue Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And Sinkers Beverages, I'm telling you, it's the best. It's the best. Okay. Cam Ward, quote, okay, you're either going to draft me or you're not. If you don't draft me, that's your fault. You've got to remember you're the same team that's got to play me for the rest of my career. And I'll remember that. So you wrote a story about this, of course, on the Tennessean. Everybody else has got an opinion about this. I want to start with Josh Rosen, top 10 pick in the NFL draft of the Arizona Cardinals at UCLA, said the same thing largely, that this is what I want every quarterback, frankly, to say before the draft about their own abilities, to be confident. Do I think he's talking directly to the Titans? Maybe. Do I think he's talking directly to anyone who's on the clock? Yes. What do you make of what he had to say? And I don't think there's a lot to be made of what Cam Ward is confident in wanting to be successful in the NFL. Earth-shattering.
I am much more interested in the fan reaction to these sort of quotes than I am to the quotes themselves. Like, you guys have probably heard me talk about philosophy and psychology a lot. I spend a lot of time, like spare time, reading philosophy and psychology stuff just because I am fascinated by this stuff. And I love the fear of regret that comes with draft season. The idea of, but how will we feel if we don't draft this person and he's great? I am here to tell you, when you have the number one pick, there is almost a 100% chance you're going to pass on a Hall of Famer. Almost every single NFL draft has one Hall of Famer in it. And almost never is there exactly one Hall of Famer and he goes first overall. It is going to happen. It is going to happen. But even 1998, they passed on Randy Moss. They got a Hall of Famer, but there was still another Hall of Famer. Charles Woodson went, what, 5th, 6th? Like, there's going to be good players you don't draft. You only get to draft one. And so I am fascinated by this idea of, well, what if that guy's great? Instead of the, what if he's great and also we pick somebody who's great? Like, it's going to happen. Even if you pick Cam Ward, maybe Abdul Carter's great. Even if you pick Cam Ward, maybe Travis Hunter's great. Yeah, good comment. I like that.
I agree with you, Cody. I already regret what they're going to do.
But so
good.
Like, let's say that the number one pick is one of the four guys we always think it's going to be. It's going to be Hunter. It's going to be Carter. It's going to be Ward. It's going to be Sanders. And then let's say in the 6th round, Will Shepard turns out to be Puka Nacua. Of just like some guy goes in the 5th or 6th round and he's a superstar and he's immediately a rookie.
Xavier Restrepo catches 1,000 NFL passes.
Like, you shouldn't feel bad that somebody you didn't pick becomes a star, because if the only person that got to be a star was the guy picked first, that would be called hockey. That sport exists. Yeah. They're usually pretty good about picking the best guy first in that sport.
The NBA. Yeah.
The NBA less accurate than hockey, but still pretty darn accurate. Like I am not sitting here saying you should not be scared of passing on Cam Ward. Like I totally understand that impulse because needing a quarterback is like good. Like you need a quarterback. You need a quarterback to win. Nobody is denying that. But like I don't know, man. If you pick the wrong guy, you should be mad that you picked the wrong guy. You shouldn't be mad that the other guy is great. Like put focus inward.
Yeah, and I like to your point. I think it's more interesting how people are like it's. I think it's almost more of a psychological commentary on Titans fandom than it is on a psychological commentary on Cam Ward. Like
exactly.
Cam Ward said everything you would hope any player would say. Does he do it in maybe a more Cam Wardish type of way? Sure. But like if being confident is like working hard, and Adam Bingen says this all the time, who does work for me, and we work together over at Lower Broad Hockey covering the Nashville Predators. He always says, like, I don't ever call a professional athlete lazy because you cannot become a professional athlete at all by being lazy. Like, I think confidence is also kind of part of that as well. Like, you cannot get to the NFL draft process and be a first-round pick if you don't have some level of internal ego. Like, you just you have to be confident in your own abilities to even be in that ballpark. So I don't like it's. I think it's far more interesting to your point about how fans are receiving this, like that they're panicking. They're just taking Cam Ward at his word and just being like assuming the Titans are going to be wrong and that he's going to be right. I think that's the psychological dynamic that's fascinating.
And it's like I'll let you guys in on some inside baseball of like things reporters can do to get the quotes they need sometimes. I don't think this is manipulation. I think this is knowing a source. When I would cover college players and I would be at their pro days, I would walk up to receivers and defensive backs and ask them the question, who is the best receiver or who is the best defensive back in this class? Because I knew with 100% certainty they would say me. Because those are the positions where you have to have that mindset. If you walk up to another position, there is a possibility that they'll say, oh, it's a deep class. I've actually really enjoyed working with these guys. I really respect this or that or the other. But at the positions where you have to play one-on-one football, you have to mentally believe that you are better than everybody. Sorry, wife's walking past. There she is. Say hello. You have to absolutely fundamentally think I'm better than everybody. And I think quarterback is becoming one of those positions. I think you do have to have that, for lack of a better term. I don't love saying this cliche, but you have to have that Mamba mentality type thing that is becoming the only thing that matters for great athletes, having that killer instinct. And everybody I've talked to about Cam Ward, and I'm sure this is true about you too, everybody you've probably talked to about Cam Ward will tell you the dude holds people to a high standard because he holds himself to a high standard. He has those leadership traits where he's going to keep people's feet to the fire, and that includes himself. So not at all shocked he said that. Not at all shocked Titans fans are living in fear of that threat.
Not at all. None of this is surprising.
No.
And almost all of it is predictable.
But we've spent 10 minutes talking about it because it's February 20th and there's not much else to do.
Also, a good long-form podcast with one really smart guy and me will always be a bit of a therapy session. That's just the way it's going to be. It's just the way it's going to work. Stoney says, yes, agreed. Titans fans already coping with Ward becoming a Hall of Fame quarterback for the New York Giants, and nothing has happened yet. Here's a good one from Ed. Does the Combine actually do anything for top-tier quarterbacks? Do they even participate? Are there pro days before free agency starts? The pro days, I think, are spread out.
Yeah, most pro days aren't scheduled yet. Last year, pro days started a couple of days before free agency. I remember last year, Georgia's pro day was on the day free agency started, or the tampering window, or whatever you want to call it. Of like, sometimes those kind of happen at the same time, and you have to spread your attention. But does the Combine do anything for top tier quarterbacks? Yes, behind the scenes. The interviews really matter. Yeah, the conversations with teams really matter.
There's no question about that. And so Cam and Shador will be talking with folks. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but as of right now, I don't believe that Borgonzi, Brinker, or Callahan have met Cam Ward yet, right?
Not
because you
they've
can't.
publicly said. Yeah, I don't think they would have had any reason to. Yeah.
Are you even allowed to be on a phone call with a prospect right now? Like, are you even allowed to do that?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't believe so. Like
I don't think
again,
so either.
if somebody in
seems
the
like
comments knows the answer, please let me know.
which again seems like a completely flawed part of the system, but whatever. Yes, I look, I agree that everything at the combine, and we'll talk about this in just a second, but there are certain things you want to get to know, and I guess this is maybe a good transition point here because I'm going to talk Travis Hunter for a second. Seekers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you check out our two great sponsors, Pay for Good Journalism, Tennessean.com. Travis Hunter, one of the things you want to know about Travis Hunter, I don't know if it matters to your decision, but I think you want to know, which is, what does he want to be? Like, what do you want to do, Travis Hunter? It's, like, ask the player, do they want to play receiver or they want to play corner? What do you like playing more? What are you more passionate about? What do you think you're better at? And again, it may not affect the way the Titans make a decision, or anybody else for that matter, but that is not answered during his 40-yard dash or during his short his agility drills. It's not running across the field and catching passes in a straight line. It's not gonna that's not how you answer that question. You got to have a conversation with him. You got to get to know him, and you need medical evaluation. So I think all of those are the two things. It's getting to know somebody, and medical evaluations are far more important. Like, could a guy be a fringe first round pick? He tests better than at everything, right? Like, he's a little bit taller, he's a little bit faster, he's a little bit more athletic than you think, and he's like kind of graded out as like pick 40. Could that move him into like mid 20s or high 30s? Maybe that could happen. But I think by and large, I think players they're on a board physically based on their tape. The things that will adjust the board for teams is the conversations, not the actual, underwear Olympics. So
no, and I think Travis Hunter is one of the most fascinating people, if not the most fascinating person here, for exactly the reason you're outlining about what he's going to say. Because like one of the things that I heard, and I can't remember if you were with me when we were talking to people about this, but one of the things I heard at the Senior Bowl is a recurring complaint that you can always tell when players have been coached to answer questions by similar people. There is a very mechanized process of, well, go in and say the right things and you're not going to hurt your stock. This is me reading between the lines. I do not think Travis Hunter is going to be the kind of person who is going to play by the book. I don't think the number one 5-star recruit in the country going to Jackson State is going to be the type who wants to just play things the way other people play. So if there is anybody who has an opportunity to boom or bust the way teams feel about them, I think it's going to be him. And I think that's a really good thing. And again, I do not know the kid. I spoke to him, or not even spoke to him.
Did you not cover him at any point?
Not at Jackson State. I covered,
okay.
Like I was in Mississippi when he committed, but I never got to go see him play. I came here very shortly after that.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think that seeing his journey and seeing the way that he bet on himself is so different than your average top prospect. And so he is the one that if we're talking about both, well, how's he going to handle the combine? Is he going to work out twice? What's he going to do? Is he listed as this? Is he listed as that? That's interesting. But also hearing how a guy who, let's face it, he could have gone to Florida State. He was committed to Florida State. I'm sure the NIL collective at Florida State had a really good deal for him. But maybe not by the standard of...
That was me making fun of Florida State.
Yeah, maybe not by the standard of some of the more organized NIL collectives.
Yeah,
but I'm sure they had a really good package. But he made a very strange bet to go play FCS football for a year so he could be mentored by a coach who was very similar to him. And whether or not you agree or disagree with that decision, clearly it worked. He won a Heisman Trophy and he's going to be picked in the top 10 of the NFL draft. But like, he is the one that it's, well, what's he going to say? How does he think about things? Because he clearly makes decisions so differently than people who are more likely to follow the beaten path.
I find the bust part of that equation to be really interesting because as we just talked about, there are probably fans. I don't think NFL front offices. I think there are probably fans who hear Cam Ward say that and are like, "Well, I don't know. Like you know the fan that when you see him on Twitter. Like, you know, the fan, and he's just like, "Oh, an athlete deserves to be quiet and sit down and shut up and play sports." And, but, you know, like, you're putting yourself over the team. And a lot of it ties to that halftime at the bowl game, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. Because NFL, just to be clear on this, I think we talked about it at the time, NFL teams, the one thing that does not care if you play in a bowl game. Nick Bosa famously sat out the entire regular season of his final year at Ohio State.
Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons, Penei Sewell.
Well, but you're talking about just bowl games.
Those guys all set out their entire final season because of COVID.
Oh, because of COVID. Okay, I'm Nick Bosa. There was a football season happening, and he got hurt in week 1, I think, against TCU in a non-conference game, and then sat out the rest of the year. And you know who had his back more than anyone else? C.J. Stroud, his teammate, said, "Do what you got to do." So my point is we blow these like bowl game and participation. We blow it out of proportion. And again, you know who doesn't care about that? The NFL. The NFL doesn't care.
How dare Christian McCaffrey sit out the 2017 Sun Bowl?
Leonard Fournette. Yeah. I mean, like, what are we doing? But I say all that to say the bust part of the Travis Hunter personality is going to be interesting because there might be an NFL team. Certainly there will be fans, but there might be an NFL team that just that's not their corporate culture, right? Like, and I don't think I was thinking of like the most buttoned up corporate culture, and I don't think it's the Steelers, but I don't know who it might be, but like I could just see an organization being like, well, that's not necessarily for us, and I'd be like, well, that's probably why you're picking in the top 10, just as a point of fact. But that's the more interesting side. I think being yourself and betting on yourself. I think you and I can see that for Travis Hunter and say that is an asset. That is something that I appreciate and I want to invest in. And I think we will get paid back because of that investment.
Sure.
The other side, I think, is more interesting because it's probably, I don't know how real it is, how important it is, if it's wrong. I mean, if Travis Hunter, I guess this is what if Travis Hunter doesn't, and this is what makes it interesting, I think, why you bring it up. Every step of the way, Travis Hunter has proven, to your point, that he is self-motivated in all of this. If he ends up being a player who doesn't work hard, who doesn't care, and he's this and that, and he just wants to play both ways and be a gimmick and all this other stuff, that flies in the face of all the stuff that we know about him and his decisions so far.
Yeah.
But I think the bust part of that conversation is far more interesting. Which teams are turned off by his personality or his answers, or frankly, like, I think it's going to be the fact that he weighs 181 pounds at the combine or whatever he is a far more important thing if you are drafting him to be a corner than anything else.
Oh, I was about to say the same thing.
Not his personality.
No, if somebody is turned off by Travis Hunter, they're going to be turned off by Travis Hunter, the player who is not shaped like top 10 picks usually are. But
yeah.
I go back to something the story I wrote last week that we talked about of all the experts at the Super Bowl telling me their opinions. I go back to something Nate Burleson told me of essentially, why do we have this impulse to say, oh, he can't do it at the pro level, he's going to be facing grown adults now? Why do we have this impulse to say that when you're playing Power 5 college football in the post-COVID era where you've got sixth-year seniors, that he's not facing grown adults? Like, endurance is not related to who you're getting hit by. Like, endurance is your ability to get back up. Like, not to quote Rocky incessantly and explain the plot of Rocky, but like, his skill wasn't that he punched hard. His skill was that he was good at getting punched. And Travis Hunter might just be generationally good at getting punched. So like, all of this stuff of he's got to explain this, I don't know until he proves that he can't do it in the pros. I want to see him try and play 120 snaps a game.
Well, I mean, as a fan of football and of content, yes, I agree, especially for the Titans. Are you suggesting that like the San Francisco 49ers don't hit as hard as the Oklahoma State Cowboys? Is that what you're saying? Like,
no, I'm not. I
would say that there is a difference in how hard you are getting hit, punched in this analogy.
But I would say that I do not know that his response to it is based on how hard he is getting hit, so much as it is the number of times he gets hit. Like, I don't maybe I'm wrong.
No,
Maybe
normally I go with
maybe
you on
I'm
these
wrong.
journeys. I like all
But
your journeys, Nick. I like
maybe
normally
maybe
everywhere
I
you
am
go.
wrong.
I
But
I think I
I think endurance is a skill of response, is not a skill of reaction. And I could be super wrong.
yeah, I think
But
I think 30 hits in the NFL is not the same as 30 hits in the Big 12. I don't think they're the same.
that and that is fair, but I think that playing 120 snaps is less of a product of how many times can you take hits and more of a product of how good are your lungs. Like,
I mean, I don't disagree with that.
yeah,
Conditioning is more important.
yeah,
But I think playing 120 snaps in the SEC, and this is not being a bias here. I just have been around the players. I've studied the game for long enough. Playing 120 snaps in the SEC is not the same thing as playing 120 snaps in the Pac-12. It's just not.
sure, that's
It's
fair.
just not.
That's fair.
There's it just isn't. But that being said, I think he's one of the most interesting. I am curious if you're looking at the combine again. Football show, Nick Suss, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, two award-winning local businesses, and Nick Suss. If you heard yet, by the way, we need to get you one. I don't know how we
Award
do that.
show having seen Nick Suss.
Award show watching Nick Suss. I'm curious who you think needs the combine here. Like, for example, let me throw out a few names here to kind of get into this. And Ed Henry kind of starts this conversation, which is teams that have pulled off trades. How close were they sitting? I did not expect to get a question about where they're sitting in the bleachers. Do we need a seating chart? So maybe I'll dig that up. I know are you going to be up there next week?
I will. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
I'm heading up on Monday, so we'll see. We'll do Mobile Part 2 in Indianapolis.
I have a rental car. We'll see how it goes.
Yikes. The first of many in Indianapolis. Is it the same company?
No, I have two different companies this time. Yeah.
See, he's smart. He studies the tape and he makes adjustments. That's what Nick Suss does. For example, I think there's a lot of players that could gain some ground. I think at positions like running back, for example, like Omarion Hampton at North Carolina, Caleb Johnson at Iowa, like those types of guys. And I don't know who's doing what, but like those types of guys are the guys that are sort of viewed as, I think Travion Henderson's another one. They're viewed as like maybe third-round picks, maybe second-round picks, but the one who does the crazy stuff athletically has a chance to move to the top of the board and maybe an early second-round pick, a fringe first-round pick. Running back seems to be a position that will, I think there'll be some adjustments on this. I don't know if that matters to the Titans per se, but I do think that's a position that those particular players who are near the top of the running back board that are not named Ashton Genty could make some ground up on Ashton Genty, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think that the position that is always going to have the greatest ability to rise up the board at the combine is pass rusher, edge rusher, defensive end, whatever you want to call them these days. Every year there's going to be a Montez Sweat or a Nolan Smith or somebody who just tests off the chart and suddenly is a top 15 pick. And we can say defensive line in general because it happens every year. And maybe this year it could be Walter Nolan at defensive tackle. You never know. But I just think there is going to be somebody.
Jihad Campbell is going to be one.
Somebody, what's his face? Jalen Walker could just absolutely bounce of like, that's a dude who I would not be shocked if goes from being a mid to late first round talk to a fringe top 10 talk just because of how we see him test.
It's funny. Those two guys are both going to be like 6'2", 245 ballpark. And those are the types of guys, because they don't necessarily have a position. They're not true off-ball linebackers, but they're not pass rushers. They're kind of a blend of both. Like Nolan Smith, good football player. Find a place for him to make plays for your team. I think you're right. Those guys who are a little undersized, but they explode at the combine are the two. I think those are actually two specific names that could come out of this being pretty good. So,
yeah. And it's like, I think I talked about this a couple of weeks ago of my like immediate resistance to Isaiah Simmons when he came out, of just like, don't tell me that he doesn't need to have a position. This is still the NFL. He does need to play somewhere. There does need to be structure. So like, if Jalen Walker goes and tests, tell me why he's going to fit into your defense. Don't just say, and now we have player. Like, you can't just play chess and say, I have a dude that can do it all. Like, you have to play from the rules of chess. So I do want to see these positionless guys be good.
They're outside linebackers.
Sure.
Who can do forward football and backward football.
Correct. Good. Sold. Go draft him. Sold.
There we go. Jack Sawyer's one, for example, that I think is interesting. Guys like him, to your point, the right position. The questions are about like the overall explosiveness, right? Like really good football player, sound football player, knows what he's doing, is in the right place, very well coached, productive and successful, great leader, etc. Does he have the RAS or whatever? The Stonies of the world want to track is like, does he have the raw athletic ability to be a first round pick, or is he more of like a third round pick? And I think so. To me, the most important area of prospect is like 30 to 70. If you go into the combine graded out roughly between 30 and 70, that is the group that can make the most money and can lose the most money. I don't think that like Tyler Warren or Malachi Starks, in my opinion, number one on the board at their position, tight end and safety respectively. Could they drop a few spots? Could they move up a few spots? Could you go from 18 to 16? Could you go from like 12 to 9 or from 9 to 12? Sure, but are they going to not be the number one safety or close to, if not the number one tight end? Their stock's probably not going to be adjusted too much. So I think because again, the draft dictates where those positions get taken more so than the player does. Brock Bowers aside, right? Every now and then Jamal Adams goes fifth or whatever. Rarely does that happen. But I think am I wrong to look at, if you're studying players that can move, you're sort of studying the Trey Harrises and the Evan Stewarts and the Jared Ivies and the, Savion Williams and the Gray Zables and the Ariante Urseries and like all the guys that are in that realm, I think are the guys that have the most to prove or lose this next week, I think.
Oh, I would agree. I would totally agree. I think that I am somebody who the combine gets a little bit lost on me. And it is a little bit because this is the sort of thing that I say that the Stonies of the world don't love. I will always, not to single you out, Stoney, I have nothing against you. I will always be a production is the thing that matters guy. Like if you played football good, then you're probably going to keep playing football good. Bet on people who played football good.
It's amazing. The funny thing about good football players is that they are good at football.
Yeah. And so like, I am not trying to be, hey, stop overthinking this guy. If that was the case, then Timmy Chang and Case Keenum would be the greatest NFL quarterbacks who ever lived. But like
Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah. I don't know, man. When we talk about the testing stuff, who is the last player that we can sincerely remember jumping up into the top 10 because of, oh my gosh, how good were they at the combine? Was it Darius Hayward-Bay?
Troy Williamson.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So here's the one that for Titans fans that is the most, to me, this is the epitome of this kind of conversation. And Titans fans, because I need to make sure I double check the actual college statistics here. So I'm going to vamp for 1 second.
Oh, good point, Stoney. Tyree Wilson is a good example.
Okay, that's true. There are way more than receivers from South Carolina and Maryland in the late 2000s.
For sure.
That we could do. Here's the one that I think is most interesting. And let me see if I can pull this up here. Okay, he was drafted by the Titans. First one in the comments. I might just buy you a beer somewhere. Okay, this player played 35 college football games. So a lot of games. 35 college.
Can I make a guess right now?
Go for it.
No. I'm. That's too soon. Give me one more clue. Give me one more clue.
He played 35 football games. He was drafted in the 2007 NFL draft by the Titans as a top 50 player in the second round. This human averaged 3.3 yards per carry in 35 NFL college football games. He never rushed for 600 yards in a season, and he rushed for 892 yards total in his entire college career, a.k.a. not a productive football player in college, at a school in which you should be dominating people if you are that good, top 50 draft pick quality good. Yeah, Stoney's like, is this a deep cut? And Jason's already correct. Were you correct, Nick?
Yeah. No, my first instinct was a different player, very similar profile, who the Titans used a top 50 pick on, Dorial Green-Beckham.
Yeah. Although Dorial Green-Beckham at least had pedigree.
Yes, he was a five-star
recruit coming out of five-star recruit coming out of high school, had pedigree. So I understand seeing the upside there. Chris Henry there was never a moment in Chris Henry's entire existence that he ever looked, played, or functioned like a top 50 NFL running back. It never happened. And then he was taken with the 50th pick. And to me, it's because he tested so well at the combine. And it's one of those things. I do think we've evolved pretty far beyond overreacting to the combine. Here's one note though, and I haven't thought this through, so it might take a couple passes here to get the articulation correct. I think fans and ball knowers like Stoney
so many shout outs
would be shocked at how little NFL teams, front offices, and coaching staffs know about college football players before they get to the draft cycle. Once they get to Mobile, then it kickstarts, they start learning. I think people would be shocked at how little people know about this stuff in the NFL circles. Where are you at on that?
No, I agree. I think that the thing that I've said a lot is you essentially have two types of NFL people. People who think of college football as a mechanism for these guys will be in the pros someday. And people who think of college football as its own damn thing. And I don't think there are many NFL people who are just huge college football fans who love the pageantry.
A bunch of losers.
Who are sitting here watching the College Game Day feature on the walk-on Eastern Michigan guard and being like, hell yeah, college football.
Okay, that's a little bit of a deep cut, but I hear what you're saying.
That was a real College Game Day feature that stuck with me.
Well, let me give you. So along these lines, I think I've told this story on the show before, but I want to do it again. I don't know if I've told you. I was covering the draft. You were there as well, I think, right? I'm covering the draft. Or you were there as a fan, right? You were visiting
in 19. Yeah, I was visiting
2019. So I was covering it for Sirius XM at the time. We were at Margaritaville doing a live show in front of like a live audience. It was me and Cole Kubelik and Ben Hartstock. So we're up there doing like a 4-hour show during the first round. A ton of fun. We got a live audience. We're breaking down live picks as they go. We're taking breaks. We're having beers. Like, it's a really fun time. Had a great time doing that show. Two guys that really know ball. A lot of fun. So obviously there's 600,000 people in Nashville or whatever over the course of the 3 days. But it's the first round. Big deal. It's packed all the way up to Margaritaville, which from the draft stage is like 3 blocks. It's like a long ways down the way. And there's a guy wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey. And I get down during commercial break. I go over to the sidebar to like get a glass of water, and he's like getting a beer with his buddies. And they have come from all over the country, like 4 guys, right? Have come from all over the country, fans of different teams, super fun guys. Looked like they're having a great time of their lives in Nashville. These 4 guys are at the bar, and the Pittsburgh Steelers had just picked, and so we did analysis of it, and then went to break. And I come down there. He's wearing a Steelers jersey. He's ordering a beer. They spend thousands of dollars and take time away from whatever life they have, wherever they are, family, work, I don't know, to come to Nashville to watch a little man, and in the Pittsburgh Steelers case, Devin Bush at the time, little undersized middle linebacker, so even smaller little man, walk across the stage hundreds of feet away. That is so important to them. I get down and I go, man, you got to be really excited about Devin Bush. Turns out I was wrong, but you got to be really excited about Devin Bush. Great player at Michigan, primo blue blood school, high profile games his entire career on Saturdays. I get down, I mean, dude, you got to be super excited. Great pick, Devin Bush. He's like, I have no idea who that is.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, middle linebacker, Michigan. You never watched any Michigan? No, I have no idea who that is. And that moment sticks in my brain for a lot of reasons. Number one, how committed people are to the NFL draft without knowing anything about anything, just to go party, which is cool. But the fact that this diehard fan cared so much about football, so much about the NFL, so much about the Steelers that he spent that much time and money to come to this thing, and it never occurred to him to watch Michigan. Like, I'm okay with somebody who's like, yeah, I didn't watch the Hawaii San Jose State game to really analyze Nick Nash. Like, I didn't watch that. I don't know who that is. I get that. But Michigan, he's an all-American Butkus candidate, Michigan middle linebacker. You didn't watch any college football? I'm always amazed by that. And I know I've told the story before, but it's just
No,
that sticks in my head so much.
I appreciate that story. I think that we can get inside journalism again. I am always fascinated by how successful the stories we write after the first day of the draft of like what to know about Will Levis. Of like, don't you know? Where have you been?
I know.
He has been a prominent name, not just through the draft process for 4 months that you ostensibly cared about, but also for 2 years at Kentucky. If people know who he is, he's a person that the football community, but the average fan is not as tapped in as the listeners to this great show, which is sponsored by things that Braden is about to tell you what it's sponsored by.
You can't tell the good folks who our two sponsors are.
I can. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know if there's a cap on how many times we're allowed.
No, I want
to put
you. I want to put you on the spot. Let's see.
We are sponsored by Sinkers Beverages, and we are sponsored by Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, which
so
are two places that are in Nashville that are award winning. Unlike me, which you said before, you just put me on blast of what awards have you won?
I want you to win awards. I'm campaigning.
Okay. Well, then name a specific award. We can't just say, oh, he needs to win an award.
The Screenwriters Guild Award.
Yeah, I'll get that one. Thing? I'll get there. The SGA is a thing. Yeah, we'll get there.
I want that one for you.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, you guys who are listening to this and we who are speaking to this are in a bit of a bubble of know who Ricky White out of UNLV is. Like,
a lot of good Mountain West receivers in this draft.
I love Ricky White. Did you know he blocked 4 kicks last year?
I like all the Mountain West receivers.
He blocked 4 kicks as a wide receiver. There was not a single other offensive player in college football last year who blocked multiple kicks, and he blocked 4. Why? What was UNLV doing? Why was a wide receiver allowed to do this? I love that.
They weren't paying their quarterback well enough.
Nevertheless.
No, very well coached by Barry Odom at the time.
Nevertheless, we are people who can discuss that in this show, whereas there is a huge plurality of football fans who still don't know who Michael Williams is. Like, there are layers.
I know. Jalen Royals, right? Utah State. You got White. You got Nash. You got the kid out of Colorado State as well.
Torrey Horton.
There's some good Mountain West receivers. It's gonna be so funny. Like the think piece on Ashton Genty being picked 12th, and people are gonna be like, I didn't know that about it. He broke the NCAA. He almost broke the NCAA rushing record. What? Like, come on. I get it. I know. I'm always amazed. And this is I said this on the show, on the SEC show with my buddy Chris Childers, of course, from SiriusXM Field of 68. Go check out SEC Football Live for way more of the conversation we're going to have in a few minutes, but a much deeper version of that. People don't realize this because I lived in a time in college when the college football video game was a big part of my life. I have not really played video games since like after college, becoming an adult. Take that for what it's worth. There are more Madden games, video games, sold in a day than the entire year for college football games.
Yeah.
And the scope of the two sports are not close, honestly. College football is still the second most watched game in our country, but it's not close.
Side note. I played the NCAA football game for the first time a couple of weeks ago when we were down in Louisiana. You want to guess what the score was at halftime of my first game?
Who'd you play with?
Friggin' UNLV, actually. I think I played with UNLV. I like their playbook. I was down 56-7 at halftime, and we stopped. Games are too hard now, man. Why are video games this hard? Why would you make them this hard? Aren't they supposed to be fun? Why are they so hard? It's
actually like an 8-year-old in his mom's basement, like shit talking you. He's like, "Come on, old man."
I don't get it. Like, it used to be you press a button and the ball goes where you want it to go, and now you got to hold it down for the right amount of time, and you got to directionalize it, and you got to take control of the receiver and make a skill catch. I just want to press the button and the guy catches it and then runs. Why is the game hard?
Look, Eddie, I love, and to everybody and to you, Nick, I love college football is my favorite sport. It just has been. It always has been. I started with baseball. I went quickly to the NFL. When Mikowski became the starting quarterback for the Packers, and then I immediately became a huge college football diehard fan in the early 90s. And I have been that way because I am attracted to the pageantry and to the romanticism of the game more so than the corporate side of the NFL. But I know that the NFL, and PK and I have argued about this literally for like 15 years on local media here, which is that there's not an argument that the players and the quality and the skill level isn't the best in the NFL. Of course it is. That doesn't make it a more entertaining sports product, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And so, again, to Eddie's point, like I would play college football over Madden any day of the week, but I don't play any because I am an adult with children and have a family and a business. So
make video games easy again. That's my take. Make them easy again. I'll play them if they're easy. I don't want to have to learn how to play. I want it to be intuitive.
Coach Will says, my wife hates how much football I watch. We all feel seen and heard with that one, Coach. We agree with you. The difference is Nick and I figured out a way to monetize it. Stoney too, by the way. So, all right. Jet, you want to talk Jets trade real fast?
Yeah.
So I saw my old co-host tweeting about this, and he's not wrong that it's completely, it's must-lie season. Grain of salt season is what he called it, I think. Basically, the Jets were going to throw like 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a third at the Titans for that pick to move from 6 to 1. And I think I've been saying this forever. And there's another question I have from blind Joe, who's like a good friend of the show, one of my favorite listeners, one of my favorite members of the Nashville sports fandom community. Basically, is asking about a double trade down. So I wanted to first get your thoughts on the Jets rumors / stuff that starts to float around out there. How much do you believe anything like that you see? Because there's always a kernel of truth, right, when this stuff happens, and the reason it catches is because there's a kernel of truth. You're kind of pushing on an open door to some degree. So the question is, how much are you, what are you making of a Jets trade rumor right now?
I believe that franchise is the kind of franchise that would want to make a move. The Jets have an aggressive ownership group. The Jets have a new coach and a new GM that are motivated to make a statement and pull a franchise out of the muck. I understand that they are a franchise that should be considered one of the 3 or 4 front runners to try and make a move. I think that moving from 1 to 7 will probably be better for the Titans in the long run than moving to 2 or 3, because I don't necessarily think you're going to get an extra first-round pick for moving back from 2 to 3. Whereas moving back from 1 to 7, I think you're guaranteed to get 1, if not 2 extra first-round picks and some extra day 2 picks as well.
Not guaranteed to get your top player, though, which you could get at 3.
Yeah, and so that's the trade-off is, do you want 5 starters or do you want 1 all-pro? And I think on this team, I would err on the side of wanting 5 starters.
Well, but it's 1 all-pro and 4 starters, right?
No. I mean, if it's the Giants trade, like, people were making stuff of it, and obviously the thing going around was way too little. But if it's the Giants trade where you're getting a 3rd-round pick, essentially, to move down, where you're getting...
that's not going to happen.
No, that's my point. Is like there's a middle ground between getting a 3rd-round pick and getting 2 first-round picks. But I do think that in order for the trade to be worth it, like, you're going to want to talk about, you move down to 7, you can get 2 future first-round picks, and if the Jets are starting a rookie quarterback next year, that's probably going to be a top 5 pick again.
Also, Garrett Wilson is a commodity that would be very much. You and I have talked a lot about that. Yeah. I think you're getting 2 2s and a 3 to move down to 3. I think you're getting a 2nd and a 3rd this year and a 2nd next year. I think at least, and I still think that's 4 starters plus Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. In theory.
In theory. I
think that's great too. So this is the question here, and my guy Joe in Nashville asked me this. He specifically said, a question I would love to hear you and Nick discuss tomorrow. This is what he said to me yesterday.
Hi, Joe.
Do you think there's a scenario where the Titans trade either way back in the first round or trade down twice and come out with players like, and ironically, I mentioned this, Tyler Warren or Malachi Starks and a pile? Can that be a good strategy? I think the answer is, yes, it can be a good strategy. I've done this on the draft simulators where you sort of play with, all right, I move down to 6, you pick up 3 extra picks, then you move down to 12 and you pick up like 3 more picks. All of a sudden you've got 8 top 100 picks this year and still a pick in the top 12 where you can end up with Luther Burden, Malachi Starks, Tyler Warren, an offensive tackle, hypothetically. Maybe Jalen Carter is available at 12. If you're not picking 1, moving back every time to stockpile as many players as possible cannot be a bad strategy. It might not be the best strategy, but it's not a bad one.
No, I love the false optimism that comes from these draft simulators, by the way. Like
I know.
I did one the other day where I traded back 3 times with the Titans, and the 3 things I got were Micah Parsons, George Pickens, and Sam Darnold. Of just like, yeah, no,
All right.
I'll trade a first round pick for Micah Parsons. That's a great idea.
Honestly, the draft simulator, you have to sort of wait till after the combine till they adjust, because they adjust their rankings accordingly.
Yeah.
And so, like, at one point, I'm drafting like, who's the kid out of? Why am I drawing a blank on the North Carolina offensive tackle? Becton? No, that's the other.
Elton
That's
from NC State.
Pelton. And then Gray Zabel. At one point, they were in like the 160s. You could draft him at like 150, 100. Well, that's not the case. So I did this after the Senior Bowl, and I traded down once to 6 and then once to 12. And I ended up with pick 12, 37, 44, 68, 73, and a second next year.
Yeah.
And I ended up with Luther Burden, Mike Green, Josh Connerly, Jade Barron, JTT, Gray Zabel in the first 75 picks.
Yeah.
That is what makes your team better.
Conspiracy corner for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not trying to call out Pro Football Focus, but I'm calling out Pro Football Focus. You have cornerback as one of the Titans' chief 4 needs and not wide receiver as one of the Titans' chief 4 needs because you have Travis Hunter listed as a cornerback and you are trying to reward people for picking Travis Hunter high. There is no world where cornerback is one of the Titans' chief 4 needs. And every time I draft a wide receiver in the first or second round and you tell me it is a C or C plus grade because that is not one of the Titans' chief needs, you are only doing that because you're trying to build in a system where you get a good grade for drafting Travis Hunter. And that's fine, but just adjust your grades. Don't tell me the Titans need a cornerback when might be the one position on the entire field that I don't think they need right now. Pro Football Focus. Adjust it. Fix it.
You tell him, Nick. So here's the thing. I just quickly traded down to 6, added a ton of picks. I got like 3 Raiders picks in the top 75. I immediately got offers from Denver to move down to 20, which would give me the 20th pick, the 51st pick, the 85th pick. So that's a first, second, and third this year. And a second and a third next year. So if I accept that deal, the Tennessee Titans, it just, again, this is all in real time, so just bear with me here. But if you accept that deal and you go from 1 to 6 and then from 6 to 20, which is a monumental drop, by the way, let's just be very honest about that. That's a huge drop. You're adding just pick after pick after pick after pick after pick after pick. You're adding 7, 8, 9 picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 2 drafts, which is what Borgonzi and, of course, Brinker have told us. So you get 3 picks from the Raiders. You get 4 more from the Broncos. I think 20 is a little low. I don't want that far. I do like 12 a lot. I think the Cowboys are another team. You could go from 7 to 12 because you can manipulate the egos with the Jets and the Cowboys. I like 18 as well. I think you can go down to 18. Who is, of course, I believe that's Is it Seattle? 18? Is it Seattle? I think so. Right. I think you can move down into that area as well. So I think there's just a lot that you can gain for your team. And it's it's 2 things. The draft isn't great in the top 10. The draft's really great from 20 to 100. And you have a lot of needs. You got to match up your team with the draft. And I think that's all those picks in the middle are where they're at. I also think they should move down in the second round. Go from 35 to 45. What can you get at 35 that you probably can't get at 40 or 45? I don't know.
I wrote about this last week. You guys can go check out the story, Tennessean. But the most fertile ground for trades in the last 5 NFL drafts have been picks 33 to 42. We have been averaging 4 or 5 trades a year among the first 10 picks of the second round because people get antsy between the draft ending Thursday night and the draft beginning Friday night of, there's 3 guys on the board who we absolutely have to be in the conversation for. It is the only part of the draft where you're thinking, there is this premium talent left. And we have all day to think about, we need to go get that guy. So if you're sitting at 35 and Coach Wills just said it, that's the pick to trade. Generally speaking, if you move back at least 7 picks from 35, you are going to get an extra top 100 pick out of it. So you think of a team like the Saints that I think are picking 42 and 93 or something like that. You can just straight up give up 35 for 42 and 93. And I think that deal is accepted. Yeah, and you are moving back 7 picks to an extra starter.
And a right tackle.
So that is like absolutely the place of, if you don't trade back at 1, I think there is a real backing for, oh, you grab the quarterback at 1. Let's say you pick Cam Ward. Now you're sitting there with 1 top 100 pick, and you need a starter at edge, you need a starter at receiver, you need a starter at right tackle. You trade that 35 and move back at least 10 picks. I think you get 2 of those 3 starters. Yeah, I think that's an answer.
I agree. So let's see here. Coach Wills, I'm trying to look this up. Says, what was the Rams offer last year?
That was a good one. I had it written down somewhere, yeah.
Braden Fisk was picked basically immediately after the Titans. One day I will tell you the story of that draft pick. So let's see. Carolina, I guess this was traded multiple times, so that's what makes this tough. I guess the Giants were on the clock at 39. The Giants traded the 2nd and a 5th, so 39 and 141 for a conditional 5th in exchange for that was part of the Brian Burns trade. So then Carolina trades the 2nd round pick, 39 overall, to the Rams for a 2nd and 5th, 52 and 155, and a 2025 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
So you moved up 13 spots. You got a 2nd and a 5th for moving up 13 spots. And it could have been the Titans. Anyway, that's pure gold. I just did this real fast while we were working here. I moved down to 7 with the Jets and then moved down to 18. And I got pick 42, 50, 92, 109, and 2 seconds next year. That's 4 second-round picks, a 3rd round pick, and a 4th round pick to move down twice. That's how you kickstart your roster. It's how the Packers did it after Rodgers and Adams. It's how the Rams did it after. It's how all these teams are doing it.
We are talking ourselves into doing the football version of that book. The only rule is it has to work. I don't know if you guys have heard of that book, but yeah, we are dangerously close to saying, what if we just run a semi-pro team and see what happens? Our ideas have to be great, right?
All right. Look, I'm not going to lie. I don't like mock drafts, but I love a mock draft simulator in the privacy of my own home.
It's very fun.
I do agree with that. It's fun. Okay. All right. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Combine's going to be great. What are you planning on? What's your goal next week as a reporter? Trying to get to know the players as best you can?
Yeah, sure. A lot of time spent after hours trying
gossiping.
To meet people. Gossiping is a a lot
of tea next week.
Mining people for information as politely as I can.
You're good at that, by the way.
Thank you.
Which I appreciate. All right, so quickly, the SEC meetings. I just want to kind of rapid fire here.
Sure.
Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. So I want to know what you think happens and what you want to see happen. Does it playoff expand to 14 or 16 teams?
I hope not, but probably.
Which one's better, 14 or 16?
Just make it 16 at a certain point.
I'm done with it too. Just pick one. Stick with it.
Just do it. Not to get super high pitched screechy voice for a 3rd time in this show. I'm going to try and keep this I'm going to try and keep this reasonable. If you're as good as you say you are, SEC and Big Ten, just earn the spots. Just go out and earn the spots. Why the hell do you think that you need guaranteed spots? Just get them. You're going to get them if you're good as you say you are. Just get them. Just get the spots.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
Stop. This is gerrymandering. What we're doing is gerrymandering. It is the people in power redrawing the lines to benefit them while they are in power to make sure they never lose power. That's what this is. It is pure gerrymandering. It is politics 101. Oh, we're in power. Let's redraw the lines. That's what's happening in college football. And I don't want to sit by and be like, okay, yeah, do it. You're in power. That's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Don't let it happen.
Unfortunately, it will happen. And the reason it's going to happen is because I agree with everything you're saying. I think automatic bids are stupid, but here's what's going to happen. They're going to take 8 now, 4 for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten. And then when in 2031, when this whole thing is destroyed again and the top 50 teams become their own league, they're going to take all the bids. So this is a middle ground. I hate to say it. It is technically a compromise. I don't like it. I agree that they should just take the spots that are good enough. If they're good enough to get them, you get them. But here's the thing. What's going to happen then is it'll go to 9 conference games because then you don't have to worry about the extra loss, right? That's what's going to happen. So it's going to go to 9 conference games. The question then is, how do we make championship weekend valuable? And here, I want to float an idea for you. Top 2 automatically get in from the Big Ten and the SEC. Okay. Team 3 plays Team 6, and Team 4 plays Team 5 on a doubleheader, 4 games, 2 in the Big Ten, 2 in the SEC. It's a doubleheader on Championship Saturday that is now like a conference basketball tournament where you play in as an automatic qualifier, and you play 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5, and the winner of those 2 games get a spot in the playoff. The loser might get an at-large spot, but the winner of those 2 games, and that solves your problem on Championship Saturday where the games are sort of dull and boring. And, how many times do we need to watch Alabama, Georgia again? It's just, which both teams are going to get in no matter what anyway. Now you have 2 teams going home, 2 teams getting in. You doubled your inventory for TV and revenue and money because the answer is always money, Nick. You just got to figure out what the question is. The answer is always money. And so if you can have a doubleheader in the Big Ten and a doubleheader in the SEC, not to mention ACC and Big 12 stuff, all of a sudden you've got a 2-game mini playoff play-in on the final week of the regular season. I, as a football fan, that sounds fun. I could be on board with that. What do you think?
You know that famous tweet that's like every 10 years, some tech bro thinks they've invented the concept of buses.
You say buses?
I don't know if yeah, like every year it'll just be like somebody reinvents public transit because they forgot that already existed. I think that under that model, we are dangerously close to just reinventing conference auto bids to specific bowl games. It's just like, oh, well, what if we had a full playoff for the Big Ten and SEC and let them have a playoff? And then, like, what if the ACC champ and the Big 12 champ played each other in the Orange Bowl? Like, that's just the BCS, guys.
Like the 70s. No.
That's just what we did forever. I think we're getting dangerously close to kind of reinventing that with a playoff element. I don't know. I would prefer that did not happen. I would prefer that we at least preserve the sanctity of the regular season a little bit, pretend that these games matter, but we can't get what we want. You're right. The financial interests at play are going to be the financial interests that decide the future of college sports. And I don't know, sucks to be Oregon State.
And Washington State. No question about it. Look, what I'm trying to find is through all of the stuff I don't like, trying to find the kernels of things I can find entertaining and enjoyable, which is I would enjoy sitting down to watch those 2 games or those 4 games on a Saturday. They would be fun. It would be dramatic. It would be entertaining. I would enjoy it. It would be good television, and I'm there for that. More football games in a playoff. While I agree with you, I don't want to see it expanded. More football is, in theory, a good thing. Not for the players, but for me. Same stuff. 9 conference games is better for the money. Agree. But it's better for me as a fan because I get more good SEC matchups. Not better for the players, but it's all about money. I get all of that. And the other one, here's the other one. If they both go to 9 games, there will be a Big Ten SEC scheduling agreement of some sort. Mm-hmm. And what the NFL continues to do is push the college season back. The college football has to take advantage and dominate and own week 0 and week 1. They've got to do it in a big way. And I could see a 10 game. It'll never be like 14, 16, 18 teams. But I could see like an 8 or 10 game Big Ten SEC competition that is sold as a separate TV package so that they can sell it to Netflix and make a fortune, probably in the 8 figures, like high 8 figures. We're talking 50, 60, 70, $80 million a year for like an 8 or 10 game package where you, and frankly, you could do a reality show in like February where you select the teams for the matchups. And I think you play half of them overseas. You play one at 8 a.m. Central Time in Munich. You play one at 11 a.m. Central Time in London. You play one in Brazil at 2 o'clock, and you play one in Mexico City at 7 o'clock. You got Texas and USC in Mexico City. You got Penn State and Tennessee and in Germany. You grow the game internationally the way Roger Goodell has over the last 20 years. It's got to be a slow burn. You're going to have to do this to expand your market. You sell it to a huge audience, to Netflix, and you put the SEC Big Ten together. It gives you great non-conference football. They're going to be creative like that, and I think college needs to dominate week 0 before the NFL makes them go to week 0. And you need to go like Thursday, Friday, Saturday on week 0, and then you need to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday on week 1. And you need to make that a holiday for college football.
The thing you are describing is college basketball, and I do not like college basketball. So I will be sad when college football becomes college basketball.
No,
I don't fill
that's
out a
not what-
bracket. I
that's not what this
don't
is.
watch the NCAA
No,
tournament.
that's not what
I
this
don't
is.
watch the Maui Invitational. I don't care. I want the games to be good and I want the games to matter.
Cody says I'd watch. Look, if you have 12 games and when they break away in 2032, they only are going to play each other. There's not going to be an FCS, SoCon Saturday in November. There's
Okay.
not going to be, unfortunately, we will not get games like Mississippi State Southern Miss, which is a really good, interesting local regional football game in the state at the start of the year this year. Those games are not going to exist anymore in a few years. And so what I want is good on good. And what can I do to sort of mitigate the problems college football is experiencing? And
what I
playing
want is more
playing Ohio State and
games
Alabama.
on campuses.
I agree,
more
but
meaningful. Why Puerto Rico, Mexico City, like these places you're saying to go? Why would you want to watch college football off campus? That's the whole
because you
problem
don't.
we were talking about.
This is the whole neutral site thing, and I think people were too greedy early on when they were putting like Alabama and Wisconsin in like Dallas. Like I think college football got way too greedy because those were paycheck games, right? The neutral site kickoff classics or whatever. Those are paycheck games. But it was always better than not getting the game because those were the two options. It wasn't will Wisconsin and now, which maybe is a bad example because they just played a home and home last year and this year, but Alabama would play Virginia Tech or USC or Michigan and like we weren't getting those games in the regular season. So it was always better to get the game than to not get it at all. And what I'm saying is if you're going to play 12 games against P4 competition, why not put the big two moneyed leagues up against each other and try to grow the game in some way, shape, or form, because that's what will make money, and then use the greed and the desire for money to give us more entertainment. And that's where
I get what you're saying, but I, with my unique stupid boy brain, I don't want the game to grow. I don't care about growing the game. I want the game to be the game. I want to like the thing I like without it becoming a thing I don't like.
Will you go with me to Washington State at Ole Miss in week 4 or 5 this year, just because it's that type of game?
If I have the ability to, I will. Like if I'm not like traveling to Denver or something, I will go.
What a weird game.
Oxford's not that far of a drive. I have a tent we can visit at the Grove. They love me there.
Let's do it. That's the kind of game that you and I fell in love with college football for.
Yeah.
Washington State at Ole Miss in week 4 or 5. What are we doing? What? You want to know why that game happened, by the way? USC canceled its home and home with Ole Miss because they're scared. And the Big Ten is running scared. So
it also happened because Wake Forest pulled out of a home and home with Ole Miss after getting absolutely trounced by Ole Miss on their home field. Both things happened.
All things are true. All right. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue and Sinkers Beverages. Eddie says, do you think Europe would really get engaged with a local college U.S. team? The only people who care about college football in Europe are my friends who went to school here. Look, do people in London care about the Jags? No, it takes time. It takes 20 years. And honestly, I think Roger Goodell's legacy, among a lot of questionable things on the Wikipedia page, the legacy for Roger Goodell will be he built the game internationally. That will be his number one legacy.
Eddie, fun documentary to check out. Stephen Fry, the British comedian, made a documentary where he visited all 50 U.S. states in 50 days and tried to do one thing unique to that state each day. And he happened to be in Alabama the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So he checked out the Iron Bowl. And if you want to see a great version of a Brit, a European, experiencing what the heck it is we do for the first time and trying to rationalize why are 97,000 people this excited about a non-professional sporting event. He just kept over and over again from the sideline looking up at the eagle flying under his breath saying, this is a derby. This doesn't count. This is a derby.
It's a derby.
This doesn't count. Why do they care? This doesn't count. Why would they care? And I'm like, oh no, it counts.
You don't understand.
It really counts. So yeah, that's a fun thing you can check out. I think it's called An American Odyssey. Maybe I'm misremembering that with a Flight of the Conchords thing. But either way, check that out. It's a fun look into how they think about college football.
I love it. All right, there you go. Check it out. War Eagle. We probably lost. That's Cody. If you're Titans and Auburn, T's and P's, my man. Decent piece. The mental anguish with those two fan bases is combined is overlapping is dangerous. It's dangerous. All right. Thank you guys all for hanging out. We do appreciate you. For Nick and I'm Braden. Thanks for listening. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, and of course the Tennessean for good journalism. Other than that, thank you, Stoney, for spamming the comments. You're always welcome. We do appreciate you guys. Otherwise, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you from Indianapolis next week. Thank you.